You guys remember Andrej Karpathy, right? Spent half a decade at Tesla as a director of AI, leading their computer vision team on autopilot. I can tell you a couple of things about Andrej. One, his brain is definitely a lot bigger than yours and mine combined. He's a brilliant mind, one of the AI goats. And he sat down with the folks on the No Prize podcast to share some thoughts. So I thought this could be relevant now. Keep in mind, Andrej no longer works at Tesla. So you're going to hear the unvarnished truth from an independent mind. Andrej wrapped up his time at Tesla in 2022, so it's been a couple of years. Had a brief stint at OpenAI, and now I believe he's doing his own thing with AI and education. Over to you, Andrej.
From a demo to an actual globalization of it, I think there's a big gap there. That's how it's related, I would say, to AGI, because I suspect it will look in a similar way for AGI when we sort of get it. And then staying for a minute in the self-driving space, I think people think that Waymo is ahead of Tesla. I think personally Tesla is ahead of Waymo, and I know it doesn't look like that, but I'm still very bullish on Tesla and its self-driving program.
Trigger alert. Andrej just said something that's true. Actually, two things that are true. Tesla is way ahead of Waymo, and it doesn't look like that, which is why thinking is important and a bit of an understanding. By the way, please don't send this clip to any of the money managers who'll just say, oh, Andrej doesn't know anything about AI and self-driving. He wasn't the head of self-driving at Tesla for 5 years. Ignore. But this is actually important because he is completely correct. I said this a trillion times, maybe a quadrillion by now. Companies like Cruise and Waymo have the false perception appearing to be ahead of Tesla because they are operating their impressive party tricks in small pockets in California, maybe Phoenix, Arizona, Austin, that's about it. But the way they're achieving this result with the amount of hand-holding and guardrails necessary is completely different to what Tesla's doing with Autonomy, developing a generalized solution. Andrej appears to get this. If I didn't know any better, I might think that he perhaps knows what the fuck is going on.
I think that Tesla has a software problem, and I think Waymo has a hardware problem, is the way I put it. And I think software problems are much easier. Tesla has a deployment of all these cars on Earth, like at scale. Mm-hmm. And I think Waymo needs to get there. And so the moment Tesla sort of like gets to the point where they can actually deploy this and it actually works, I think it's going to be, really incredible. The latest builds I just drove yesterday, I mean, it's just driving me all over the place now. They've made like really good improvements, I would say very recently.
Yeah, I've been using it a lot recently and it actually works quite well.
So, it did some miraculous driving for me yesterday, so I'm very impressed with what the team is doing. And so I still think that Tesla mostly has a software problem, Waymo mostly hardware problem. And so I think Tesla, Waymo looks like it's winning kind of right now, but I think when we look in 10 years and who's actually at scale and where most of the revenue is coming from, I still think they're ahead in that sense.
I couldn't agree more, as I've discussed. In terms of scale, Andrej importantly points out Tesla's already got many millions. I mean, it won't be too long before they've got 10 million vehicles on roads capable of autonomy with an over-the-air software update. 10 years from now, that fleet could be 100 plus million, all capable of autonomy. Does anyone have any ideas? Please explain in the comments below how any company other than Tesla would be able to match a fleet of that scale capable of autonomy, and also how much would it cost to do that? By the way, the actual answer, many trillions of dollars of hardware on roads. Importantly, Andrej mentioning that he believes not just scale, but he's talking about Tesla capturing a massive slice of all of the revenue. Oh, and spoiler alert, the larger a company's share of autonomous revenue in the future, the larger their profits. And I don't just mean that they're going to be in proportion. The company with the greatest scale is going to benefit the most. And I personally believe take the lion's share of the profits on the lion's share of the revenue. More profit per mile on average than second, third, and 29th place. Of course, we do have to remember that Andrej is really dumb, has a small brain, plus he has no understanding of autonomy and AI, so he's probably going to be wrong, and I'm definitely going to be wrong, so ignore what we have to say. Oh, and in unrelated matters, just for the record, still buying Tesla stock with every spare cent. Still haven't sold any, just saying.
How far away do you think we are from the software problem turning the corner in terms of getting to some equivalency? Because obviously, to your point, if you look at a Waymo car, it has a lot of very expensive LiDAR and other sort of sensors built into the car so it can do what it does. It sort of helps support the software system. And so if you can just use cameras, which is the Tesla approach, then you effectively get rid of enormous costs / complexity, and you can do it in many different types of cars. When do you think that transition happens?
I mean, in the next few years, I'm hoping like something like that. But actually, what's really interesting about that is I'm not sure that people are appreciating that Tesla actually does use a lot of expensive sensors. They just do it at training time. So there are a bunch of cars that drive around with LiDARs. They do a bunch of stuff that like doesn't scale, and they have extra sensors, etc. And they do mapping and all this stuff. You're doing it at training time, and then you're distilling that into a test time package that gets deployed to the cars and is vision only. And it's like an arbitrage on like sensors and like expense.
Yeah.
And so I think it's actually kind of a brilliant strategy that I don't think is fully appreciated. And I think it's going to work out well because the pixels have the information. And I think the network will be capable of doing that. And yes, at training time, I think these sensors are really useful, but I don't think they're as useful at test time. And I think you don't.
It seems like the one other thing or transition that's happened is basically a move from a lot of edge case designed heuristics associated with it versus end-to-end deep learning. And that's what other shift that's happened recently. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and sort of what that?
Yeah, I think that was
happened there?
always like the plan from the start, I would say, at Tesla, as I was talking about how the neural net can like eat through the stack. Because when I joined, there was a ton of C++ code, and now there's much, much less C++ code in the test time package that runs in the car. Because there's still a ton of stuff in the backend that we're not talking about. The neural net kind of like takes through the system. So first it just does like a detection on the image level. Then it does multiple images, gives you prediction. Then multiple images over time give you a prediction. And you're discarding C++ code. And eventually you're just giving steering commands. And so I think Tesla is kind of eating through the stack. My understanding is that current Waymos are actually like not that, but that they've tried, but they ended up like not doing that is my current understanding, but I'm not sure because they don't talk about it. But I do fundamentally believe in this approach. And I think that's the last piece to fall, if you want to think about it that way. And I do suspect that the end-to-end systems for Tesla in, like, say, 10 years, it is just a neural net. I mean, the videos stream into a neural net and commands come out. You have to sort of build up to it incrementally and do it piece by piece. And even all the intermediate predictions and all these things that we've done, I don't think they've actually like misled the development. I think they're part of it because there's a lot of subtle reasons for this. So actually, like end-to-end driving, when you're just imitating humans and so on, you have very few bits of supervision to train a massive neural net. And it's too few bits of signal to train so many billions of parameters. And so these intermediate representations and so on help you develop the features and the detectors for everything. And then it makes it a much easier problem for the end-to-end part of it. And so I suspect, although I don't know because I'm not part of the team, but there's a ton of pre-training happening so that you can do the fine-tuning for end-to-end. And so basically, I feel like it was necessary to eat through it incrementally, and that's what Tesla has done. I think is the right approach, and it looks like it's working. So I'm really looking forward to it.
If you had started end-to-end, you wouldn't have had the data anyway. That makes sense, yeah. So you worked on the Tesla humanoid robot before you left. I have so many questions, but one is like starting here. What transfers?
Basically, everything transfers, and I don't.
Oh shit, he just said the thing that's completely true that I also was saying that people didn't quite seem to understand. Maybe they do now. This is really important. I'm going to let Andrej speak just a sec. Remember I said you can essentially transplant the brain of the car, the vehicle, into the robot? The vision, seeing, perceiving, planning and acting in the real world, locomoting, like moving. It's the same shit, slightly different format. This is why I personally believe that Tesla will be untouchable when it comes to useful, generalized humanoid robots as well. Because in order for another company to have competency comparable to Tesla's humanoid robot, they're going to need to solve vision at scale. And how in the fuck are you going to do that unless you have literally millions of sensor-encrusted robots in the world, whether they're robots or cars? It's the same shit. The cars are robots. How would you do this without the millions of robots in the world collecting data and training? And the answer is, I don't think you can. So many companies out there, as I've mentioned recently and repeatedly, may be developing humanoid robots. They may do fine with the hardware, the hands, the actuation, the movement, that stuff, no problem, whatever. But the most important thing is the brain and particularly vision. How the fuck are they going to solve that without data at scale like Tesla has? And Tesla's ability to literally transplant the brain of the vehicle into the robot. I mean, I just don't see how this happens. And of course, the haters will say, I just sound like a deluded Tesla fanboy. Oh, Tesla's going to win at everything. You're a fucking moron. Please explain to me how somebody develops a comparable humanoid robot in terms of its capabilities around vision without developing the brain. Let's listen again to what Andrej said. He's completely right.
So you worked on the Tesla humanoid robot before you left. I have so many questions, but one is like starting here. What transfers?
Basically, everything transfers, and I don't think people appreciate it.
Okay, that's a big claim.
I think
it's like a very different
cars
problem.
are basically robots when you actually look at it.
Okay.
Cars are robots, and Tesla, I don't think is a car company. I think this is misleading. This is a robotics company. Robotics at scale company, because I would say at scale is also like a whole separate variable. They're not building a single thing. They're building the machine that builds the thing, which is a whole separate thing. And so I think robotics at scale company is what Tesla is. And I think in terms of the transfer from cars to humanoids, it was not that much work at all. And in fact, like the early versions of Optimus, the robot, it thought it was a car, like because it had the exact same computer, it had the exact same cameras. It was really funny because we were running the car networks on the robot, but it's walking around the office and so on.
Oh, amazing.
And like it's trying to like recognize drivable space, but it's all just walking space now, I suppose. But it actually kind of like generalized a little bit, and there's some fine tuning necessary and so on. But it thought it was driving, but it's actually like moving through an environment.
Is a reasonable way to think of this as like, actually, it's a robot, many things transfer, but you're just missing, for example, actuation and action data?
Yeah, you definitely miss some components. And the other part I would say is like so much transfers, like the speed with which Optimus was started, I think to me was very impressive, because the moment Elon said we're doing this, people just showed up with all the right tools, and all the stuff just showed up so quickly, and all these CAD models and all the supply chain stuff. And I just felt like, wow, there's so much in-house expertise for building robotics at Tesla, and like it's all the same tools, and they're just like, okay, they're being reconfigured from a car, like a Transformer, the movie. They're just being reconfigured and reshuffled, but it's like the same thing. And you need all the same components. You need to think about all the same kinds of stuff, both on the hardware side, on the scale stuff, and also on the brains. And so for the brains, there was also a ton of transfer, not just of the specific networks, but also all of the approach and the labeling team and how it all coordinates and the approaches people are taking. I just think there's a ton of transfer.
What do you think of the first?
Once again, Andrej out here spitting facts. And again, this is really important to understand. I've been harping on about the autonomous opportunity since the start of this channel. And then we hear about the humanoid robot a couple of years later, and I immediately bust 12 nuts consecutively because I'm like, oh fuck, they can put the brain from the car, and holy shit. Andrej's point about the transfer, it's not just the brain from the car, but also, as he points out, you got the computer, right? The chip, the batteries, electric motors. There's so much transfer. Tesla has expertise at manufacturing products like this at scale. Much like it's obvious to me that Tesla's won autonomy, generalized autonomy at scale, check back like Andrej mentions in a decade and let's just see what's happened. My prediction, Tesla's going to be taking the lion's share of the profits. The same fundamental advantage Tesla has with autonomy. Huge scale, huge data, an unassailable data lead. Miraculously, that can be transferred to provide an equivalent lead with a humanoid robot. Tesla has all of the pieces of the puzzle to nail useful, increasingly intelligent humanoid robots at scale. And there are no other companies that I can think of that have all of the necessary pieces of the puzzle. I mean, how many companies can you guys think of? Please let me know in the comments below. That have expertise in manufacturing millions of pieces of hardware per year today that happen to have electric motors and lithium-ion batteries and an FSD-esque computer and cameras for vision. Oh wait, there's none. I'm sure it's nothing.
First application areas for humanoid robotics or human form stuff?
I think a lot of people have this vision of it like doing your laundry, etc. I think that will come late. I don't think B2C should be the right start point, because I don't think we can have a robot like crush grandma, is how I put it, sort of. I think it's like too much legal liability. Yeah. It's just like, I don't think that's the right approach.
But like a very torquey hug.
I mean, it's just going to fall over or something like that. You know, like these things are not perfect yet and they require some amount of work. So I think the best customer is yourself first. And I think probably Tesla's going to do this. I'm very bullish on Tesla, if people can tell. The first customer is yourself, and you incubate it in the factory and so on, doing maybe a lot of material handling, etc. This way, you don't have to create contracts working with third parties. It's all really heavy. There's lawyers involved, like, etc. You incubate it, then you go, I think, B2B second. And you go to other companies that have massive warehouses. We can do material handling. We're going to do all this stuff. Contracts get drafted up. Fences get put around, all this kind of stuff. And then once you incubate it in multiple companies, I think that's when you start to go into the B2C applications. I do think we'll see B2C robots also, like Unitree and so on, are starting to come out with robots that I really want.
I got one.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the G1.
Yeah.
Andrej, who just confessed he's still extremely bullish on Tesla, as you can tell, makes another very important point, one I've also made. Turns out that obvious things are obvious. Tesla will be their own first customer with the Optimus humanoid robot, and this is important. He talks about the grandma problem and the robot falling over. I've also made similar statements myself. Because Tesla literally makes millions of products per year in factories, and parts of those processes are extremely simple, boring, and repetitive, Tesla can begin deploying Optimus humanoid robots in their own factories, and at first, they will be a drag on productivity. They will be annoying. They will make mistakes. They'll fall over. They'll drop shit. They'll put things in the wrong place. They'll be less than useless. However, because Tesla will be their own first customer, Tesla isn't going to get butthurt and go, this is shit. I want a refund. Instead, Tesla's going to go, great, let's make it better. And eventually, because Tesla can deploy their robots in their own factories, scratching their own itch, serving their own needs, once they become useful enough in factory-like situations, that will transfer to other companies who have comparable needs. I suspect the first commercial customers for Tesla's humanoid robot will most likely be other automotive manufacturers. However, it's possible that it'll be more generalized factory stuff. But then soon after that, they'll be deployed in warehouses as well, big commercial orders for warehouse. It's not that different from a factory. And then suddenly they're off to the races. Now, again, I just want to ask the question because it's important to understand. Are there other companies that could potentially do what Tesla's doing? Let's ignore the lack of the brain and fuck all that stuff. I mean, Tesla's already won for like 6 ways till Sunday. But on this particular example, how would another company developing humanoid robots, generalized humanoid robots, go through this process of training, testing, validating, and increasing capabilities at scale, which is necessary before they start selling to customers? And the answer to that question is, I guess they would just have to build a bunch of fake factories doing fake jobs just to test them out and train them. I mean, what's the alternative? The only other way I see this happening is if a humanoid robot company gets a massive investment. Let's just say that Amazon starts swinging around billions of dollars and investing, buying large stakes in said companies, and then deploying the robots in their own factories / warehouses, understanding that they'll be extremely useless and a drag on productivity initially. That's the only way I see that happening. It's just so obvious that Tesla has won this humanoid robot opportunity. They have all of the pieces of the puzzle. No other company does. And to acquire those pieces is near impossible. They don't get in the brain. They don't have the data. They don't have the expertise manufacturing at scale. And they can't be their own first customer. So how the fuck are they going to win?
So I will probably buy one of those, and there's probably going to be an ecosystem of people building on those platforms too. But I think in terms of what wins at scale, I would expect that kind of a approach. But in the beginning, it's a lot of material handling, and then going towards more and more edge case things that are more specific. One that I'm really excited about is the Nat Friedman challenge of the leaf blower. I would love for an Optimus to walk down the street, tiptoe down the street, and pick up individual leaves so that we don't need leaf blowers. Yeah. And I think this will work, and it's an amazing task. And so I would hope that that's one of the first applications.
Or just even raking. Yeah, that should work too.
Just very quietly.
Yeah, just quiet raking.
That's cute. They do actually have a machine that's working. It's just not a humanoid. Can we talk about the humanoid thesis for a second? Because the simplest version of this is the world is built for humans, and you build one set of hardware. The right thing to do is build a model that can do an increasing set of tasks in this set of hardware. I think there's another camp that believes humans are not optimal for any given task, right? You can make them stronger or bigger or smaller or whatever, and why shouldn't we do superhuman things?
So, I mean, obvious things are obvious here. The entire world today, we've designed it for, wait for it, ready? Ourselves, humans. So a humanoid form factor will slot most easily into the current world. The reason a company would develop a humanoid form robot is if they specifically want it to be quick, easy, convenient to slot into the real world to do tasks that today humans do at massive scale. You can certainly make the argument having super specialized robots will be more efficient and effective for very particular narrow tasks. But if your goal is massive scale, the only option is a humanoid form factor. It'll be a lot easier to build a fuck ton of humanoid robots than it will be to re-engineer everything on Earth specifically to be more suitable for slightly different or extremely differently designed form factors for robots. But, I mean, you already knew that, right?
How do you think about this?
I think people are maybe underappreciating the complexity of any fixed cost that goes into any single platform. I think there's a large fixed cost you're paying for any single platform. And so I think it makes a lot of sense to centralize that and have a single platform that can do all the things. I would say the humanoid aspect is also very appealing because people can teleoperate it very easily. And so it's a data collection thing that is extremely helpful because people will be able to obviously very easily teleoperate it. I think that's usually overlooked. There's, of course, the aspect you mentioned, which is the world designed for humans, etc. So I think that's also important. I mean, I think we'll have some variations on the humanoid platform, but I think there is a large fixed cost to any platform. And then I would say also one last dimension of it is you benefit a ton from the transfer learning between the different tasks. And in AI, you really want a single neural net that is multitasking, doing lots of things. That's where you're getting all the intelligence and the capability from. And that's also why language models are so interesting, is because you have a single regime, like a text domain, multitasking all these different problems, and they're all sharing knowledge between each other, and it's all coupled in a single neural net. And I think you want that kind of a platform, and you want all the data you collect for leaf picking to benefit all the other tasks. If you're building a special purpose thing for any one thing, you're not going to benefit from a lot of the transferring between all the other tasks, if that makes sense.
Once again, the dude is right. And by the way, this also completely directly relates to generalized autonomous vehicles as opposed to the extremely brittle solution that Cruise and Waymo and other companies are attempting to come up with. I've given the example in the past. Tesla's approach with autonomy is to solve vision and solve autonomy such that you could, in essence, pick up a Tesla vehicle and drop it on any road on Earth, and without it having previously driven on the road, without you having to previously map the area in high definition, without you needing to use LiDAR to bounce sensors off to make sure that everything's in line with the pre-3D map, the vehicle, because it has generalized ability to drive, will look out into the world and go, oh yeah, that's a road, that's a line, I can drive there, I can't drive there. Obviously, this is the side of the road I need to be on. Okay, cool, I can figure this shit out, no problem. And it can drive safely anywhere on Earth because that general capability transfers. Companies like Cruise and Waymo, on the other hand, you try that with one of their vehicles, take it outside of its little safe sand pit, and it becomes a death machine on wheels. This is all about scale. And I suspect that we're going to see the same narrative and the same misconceptions about what's happening with humanoid robots in the next couple of years as we currently see with autonomy, where, as Andre points out, people think Cruise, Waymo in particular, are ahead of Tesla with autonomy. It's a false perception. The same is likely to be true for humanoid robots. We'll see demonstrations from some of these robot startups where their robot will be doing one very specific narrow task exceptionally well, but it will be completely miserable and or incapable at doing anything else. Take it out of its sandpit, that one special task, and suddenly useless. I mean, this Andre guy seems to know what he's talking about. Fancy that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's one argument of like, it seems, I mean, the G1 is like 30 grand, right? But it seems hard to build a very capable humanoid robot under a certain BOM. And like, if you wanted to, put an arm on wheels that can do things, like maybe there are cheaper approaches to a general platform at the beginning. Does that make sense to you?
Cheaper approaches to a general platform.
From a hardware perspective.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, you put a wheel on it instead of a feet, etc. I do feel like, I wonder if it's taking it down like a local minimum a little bit. I just feel like pick a platform, make it perfect is like the long-term pretty good bet. And then the other thing, of course, is like, I just think it will be kind of like familiar to people. And I think people will understand that maybe you want to talk to it. And I feel like the psychological aspect also of it, I think favors possibly the human platform, unless people are like scared of it and would actually prefer a platform that is more abstract of like some. But then I don't know if it's just some kind of like an 8-wheel monster doing stuff. Then I don't know if that's like more appealing
it's
or
kind
less
of like
appealing.
It's interesting that I think that the other form factor for the Unitree is a dog, right? And it's almost a more friendly or familiar.
Yeah, but then people watch Black Mirror and suddenly the dog flips to like a scary thing. So it's hard to think through. I just think psychologically it will be easy for people to understand what's happening. And
what do you think is missing in terms of technological milestones for progress relative to substantiating this future?
For robotics specifically.
Yeah. Or the humanoid robot or anything else, human form.
Yeah, I don't know that I have like a really good window into it. I do think that it is kind of interesting that like in a humanoid form factor, for example, for the lower body, I don't know that you want to do imitation learning from like demonstration, because for lower body, it's a lot of like inverted pendulum control and stuff like that. It's for the upper body that you need a lot of like teleoperation and data collection and end-to-end and etc. And so I think like everything becomes like very hybrid in that sense, and I don't know how those systems interact.
When I talk to people working, they feel a lot of what they focus on is like actuation and manipulation and sort of digital manipulation and things like that.
Yeah, I do expect in the beginning it's a lot of like teleoperation for getting stuff off the ground and then imitating it and getting something that works 95% of the time, and then talking about human to robot ratios and gradually having people who are supervisors of robots instead of doing the task directly, and all this kind of stuff is going to happen over time and pretty gradually. I don't know that there's like any individual impediments that I'm like really familiar with. I just think it's a lot of grunt work. A lot of like the tools are available. And transformers are this beautiful like blob of tissue. You can just get just arbitrary tasks, and you just need the data. You need to put it in the right form. You need to train it. You need to experiment with it. You need to deploy it, iterate on it. That's just a lot of grunt work. I don't know that I have a single individual thing that is like holding us back technically.
Some interesting final thoughts there. How to solve this problem with the humanoids in terms of capabilities. Deploy, train, collect data, iterate, improve. So it'd be really convenient if you happen to be trying to solve this problem, the humanoid robots, if you could deploy them across your factories on increasingly more complicated tasks over time to collect the data, to train, and so on. Being your own first customer, a massive advantage here. So in conclusion, Tesla has one autonomy. Their lead is unassailable. Doesn't appear like that if you look at the surface level. Wait, Waymo operating Robotaxis already, they're ahead. That's why I've got to dig a little bit deeper. And the reason they want autonomy is because they've been able to develop the brain of the vehicle due to the fleet scale data, which transfers directly into the humanoid robot, meaning, guess what? Yes, they've also won the humanoid robot opportunity, but it's not likely to appear that way for a few years, or at least that's my personal opinion. And it appears that Andrej Karpathy, who's a very low IQ guy who doesn't know anything about AI or robotics, seems to agree in general. But of course, he's dumb and uninformed, so ignore him. Instead, I would probably listen to some of the suggestions, the wisdom, the reports from managers of money, the same kind of folks who previously thought Tesla was just a car company. They're probably going to be right. But on the odd chance it turns out that my predictions come to pass 10 years from now, I'll be happy to look back and say, you know what? Tried to warn these motherfuckers, said the same shit every single day for half a decade and counting. I did my best. So in conclusion, don't say I didn't warn you. Want more content? Early access? A bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients. Plus, has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. And I haven't missed a daily video in more than 3 years. Must be a coincidence, right? Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. But don't take my word for it. This is what viewers of the channel had to say after trying AG1. I feel like I have a lot more energy since I started on AG1. By the way, viewer, that makes 2 of us. On to the next. Just got my AG1 in the mail. Legit feeling the effects after day 3. This viewer's been taking AG1 for 8 months and says, what an investment. Another. 3 months ago, I started AG1 and have been enjoying the evenness of alertness and energy that lasts the day. I just started the wife on it too. Are you convinced yet? I mean, hey, it's worth trying, right? Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR or I can keep going. There's plenty more to come. This viewer, after about a month on AG1, definitely a lack of fatigue in the afternoon. Pleasant side effect is that my coffee intake has imploded and is almost down to 0. One more? Yeah, why not? I honestly feel younger and will be continuing to use AG1. This stuff really is crazy good. I didn't think it would be, but this stuff is awesome. It really is what everyone is saying. One more? Don't mind if I do. I've just received my 3rd month supply. I've drank it every day. I have so much energy throughout most of the day. I'm productive, started a new business, started socializing, refurbished a boat. It's no coincidence. Thank you for your persistence, your integrity, and your insights. Now look, these are not my words. These are not my testimonials. This is what you guys and girls are saying. Maybe it's 100% placebo effect. But even if that's the case, I think it's money well spent. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. If you're still skeptical, hey, I don't blame you. Everyone on the planet seems to be promoting AG1 now, but guess what? They weren't nearly 3 years ago when I had this to say privately to my Patreon audience before there was a relationship, when I was asked about what I was doing for my health, energy, and so on. Just sharing my genuine, honest thoughts about a product I'd recently discovered that was at the time called Athletic Greens, now AG1. If I could only recommend one supplement to take, Athletic Greens, and I'm not getting paid to say this, Athletic Greens is a fucking game changer. I cannot believe how effective this is. No longer having a lack of energy in the afternoons. It's fucking amazing. There's only one thing to recommend, seriously. Try Athletic Greens. You won't go back. So obviously, just like Elon Musk is a liar, a fraud, a con man, a scammer, a fake engineer, and Tesla's going bankrupt, you shouldn't trust that guy from about 3 years ago who, without any financial incentive, was promoting this product to his audience on Patreon when they were asking about health and what he's doing for supplements. Because obviously, there was some other reason he recommended that, obviously. Not sure what it was, but don't trust that guy. And all the testimonials, like my mental game has improved with AG1. I feel better than ever. I'm so impressed I've bought it for both my parents. I feel more focused and have better digestion. Incredible difference. No more afternoon fatigue. It's relieved gut issues. These are all just obviously fake testimonials from fake people. Right? Wrong. Just try it. Unless you hate yourself. If you hate yourself and you don't even want to risk possibly feeling better, this is not for you. But for everyone else, what's the worst that could happen? Try it for a month. See how you feel. It's a no-brainer. Just click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR. You'll get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 plus 5 travel packs. And you'll take the colossal risk that maybe you might have a similar experience to some of the people whose testimonials we've read in this video.